does money say about us? How much we have, how much we don't have?
Yeah. You know what? One of the things that I am disconcerted by is how we use our stuff to speak about what we're worth. You know, we look at decor porn television, and then we think we don't have granite countertops, we must be less than the person who does. And I often say, if we walked around with a big sign on our backs declaring how much debt we had, then our newer car, our fancy house, or twice-a-year vacations would mean a lot less to the people looking at us.
True. But don't keep up with the Joneses.
Well, they can't see the rot. The rot is what's hidden, and that's the debt. And unfortunately, if we could display the rot, then people would be far less impressed by the stuff.
Are there rules in Canada we should all abide by? Pay down your mortgage.
Absolutely. There are rules, and these rules, as I say, are the common sense rules. It's things like don't spend more money than you make. Make sure that if you use credit, you're using credit to your advantage, which means you never turn it into debt.
What does that mean?
You don't ever carry a balance. So you may use your
You
credit
were going
card.
to say that.
You may use your credit card for transactions, but you always pay the balance off in full at the end of every single month.
You also write in here about prepaid credit cards.
Yes.
Not necessarily a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Why?
There are a lot of fees attached to them. And again, you become unconscious about what you're spending because the money is already on the card. So you consider it to be a sunk cost. You already spent the money when you put it on the card. So now how you use that money to buy whatever becomes less important.
And are you a believer in reward cards, air mile cards, cashback cards?
I am, because if you're using them to your advantage, they're a good thing. However, if you're carrying a balance on a credit card and you are using the excuse, well, I get points when I use that card, you're an idiot. Because you are actually paying far more in interest than those points will ever give you in return.
Well, as you know, banks want our money, retailers want our money, investment people want our money.
Yes, they do.
What kind of litmus test do you put people through when they want your money? What questions do you ask?
Well, ultimately, what I want to know is that that person is interested in what I want. They're not telling me what they think I should have. They're asking me, what do I want? So for example, when I hired my broker, I can't do my own investing, Fanny. I just don't have time. Okay, I'm on the road a lot. Somebody else needs to keep their eye on my investment portfolio. And when I first spoke with this gentleman, we talked about what kind of return I wanted, what my safety needs were, how much risk I was prepared to take. And he said to me, okay, so what's the return you want? And I said, I'd be happy with 9%. And he said, can't be done. And I said, really? He said, yeah, can't be done with the safety that you also want in place, because you're now in the preservation of capital stage, you're telling me? Because that's where I am.
You're not that old.
Well, it's not a matter of that, because it doesn't have anything to do with age.
Okay.
It has to do with how you will respond to the sense of, I'm losing my money. If you don't care, if you know you can write it out, then you have a higher risk profile. I have a lower risk profile, but I always have. Okay, so this is not unusual. He said to me, realistically, you can get 7 over the long term. I said, okay, so I adjust my expectations, but he's truthful. He's not saying to me, oh yeah, I can get you 9, and then spending the next several years of my life trying to push me into things to get me 9 that make me uncomfortable.
So if you have or had a self-directed RRSP and your broker was running that or somebody was running that, what would you say to them today? GICs, conservative, depending on your age?
I tend to go with dividends. So I want investments that will provide me with a good, steady dividend, because that speaks to the basic value of the stock underlying it. Companies don't pay dividends when they're doing this. Okay, they have to be doing this. So they're a more stable entity. So I ask for investments in stocks that provide dividends, but I also have quite a large portfolio of fixed income investments, because that becomes the basis that I know I can go back to. I live in a world where my job can disappear in a nanosecond. I mean, if I fall out of favor, like this, I'm gone.
I live in that world too, the freelance world.
Absolutely. So I need a big fat FU account.
Oh.
Yes.
So do I. So do I, sister. So to have a big fat FU account.
Yes.
How and it's the rainy day fund. It's something you can rely on. How do you figure out how much you need?
Well, the general rule of thumb is you need 6 months worth of essential expenses, because the idea is it usually takes about 6 months to recover from whatever it is. I have 2 years. In my world, I think I need 2 years.
In an RRSP or just in cash?
I'm straight up in cash. Well, not cash. It's in savings or GICs or easily liquidated bonds, but they will hold their value.
If you owned a home, do you own a home?
I do.
And you don't have a mortgage?
I do not.
And you're thinking, this is my retirement.
Yes. That's
Is
a
that
bad
a good
idea.
plan or not a good plan?
It's a good plan if the home you own isn't the only source in your portfolio. Because ultimately, when you retire, you're going to need cash. You're going to need some money to eat. You have to pay to carry the home. I mean, I own my home outright, and it costs me anywhere from $1,000 to $1,200 a month to carry the house without a mortgage. Property taxes, utilities, maintenance. So there is still a nut that you have to cover in terms of your shelter costs.
But what if your plan is, she says, sell the house,
Yes.
get to a small little place.
You can be perfectly happy doing that.
Downsize.
Absolutely.
And
move from here to
invest the money.
Kelowna. Absolutely. You can do a lot. Go to Kamloops. Go to an area where the costs are far lower. And if you're not dependent on an income anymore, you're not having to generate an income, then what you're looking for is a place where you can live comfortably. The problem people have is that they think they're going to sell their home, but that's where their kids live. They don't want to sell their home anymore. They want to be close to their kids. Or they've gotten so used to the lifestyle. You know how many retirees are buying bigger and then renovating?
Really?
Like, shoot yourself in the head.
Yeah, I think less is more when I'm there.
Absolutely. Well, I'm practicing less is more now. You know, so my needs are very simple. I don't do flashy. I live in a small house. I drive an old car. When the time comes, I will get a new car, but I won't do that until absolutely the last minute.
And I know you don't have 500 pairs of shoes.
I do not have 500 pairs of shoes, nor do I have 24 lipsticks. All my lipsticks live in my makeup artist's kit.
I see.
Yes.
Okay. And you don't buy expensive jewelry?
I
Because you
don't.
don't like it, or why?
Well, I have a tendency to lose my jewelry. I mean, you know, I have had expensive jewelry that has gotten lost, and I have said to myself, that wasn't worth it. The owning of that thing was not worth the sense of loss.
Got it.
Because it disappeared for some reason.
Sure,
and
but
I
you
will
have
not insure stuff.
But you have enough money, I
Yeah.
think, to buy another Cartier. You do.
If I wanted to, I could. And you know, it's funny because I'll go shopping with friends and we'll go past something and they'll say to me, oh, this is lovely. And I go, yeah, I can't afford that. And they say, but you can afford it. And I've used the wrong word. What it is I can't foil it. I can't justify taking the money out of the bag to buy that thing. Meanwhile, there'll be something else that I absolutely fall in love with that I totally can foil. And so I'll buy it.
Okay, so maybe a trip.
A trip?
Maybe a domestic goddess to do your vacuuming. We'll talk about that when we come back, because I
Absolutely.
know you don't like to vacuum.
I do not.
Gail Vaz-Oxlade, our guest, Money Rules, her new book. We'll be back.